People love dogs on account of how nice, soft, and fluffy they are. But did you know there's a credit card called Care Credit? And it's like a dog in every single way. Okay, it's nothing like a dog. But you can use it to pay for things like vet care for your dog or dental and vision care for yourself at over 270,000 locations nationwide. Care Credit offers flexible financing for health and wellness for pets and people, which actually makes it better than a dog because dogs don't even have flexible financing. Take that, dogs.
Visit carecredit.com to apply and find a location near you, subject to credit approval.
And now, a next-level moment from AT&T Business. Say you've sent out a gigantic shipment of pillows, and they need to be there in time for International Sleep Day. You've got AT&T 5G, so you're fully confident. But the vendor isn't responding, and International Sleep Day is tomorrow. Luckily, AT&T 5G lets you deal with any issues with ease, so the pillows will get delivered and everyone can sleep soundly, especially you. AT&T 5G requires a compatible plan and device. Coverage not available everywhere. Learn more at att.com/5G network.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey, and I've got a great episode for you today. From ABC News Studios, Born to be Viral, The Real Lives of Kidfluencers follows the first generation of kids that were raised in the social media spotlight, their entire lives broadcast to millions, with the lucky few earning millions of dollars. This was shot over 5 years with exclusive access to top creators. The series pulls back the curtain on the real lives of kid influencers and also their families. How far will the pursuit of likes and followers push the families? And when these kids grow old, will it all have been worth it? This airs on Freeform and will be available on Hulu as well. And later in the episode, I interview the series director. The series follows 4 families that are navigating fame, finances, and filters. You have the super successful Fisher family, led by Mormon parents Madison and Kyler. You have the McClures, known for their adorable twin daughters. Nastya, the Russian-born YouTube phenom who's got more followers than most pop stars. And then you have Ethan Rodriguez, who is just trying to begin a career as a YouTube star. The history of kidfluencing is relatively recent, but it's also rooted in a much longer tradition of children being in the spotlight of entertainment and advertising. Long before Instagram and YouTube, kids were front and center in TV commercials, sitcoms, movies, and magazine ads. Think Shirley Temple, the Olsen twins, child models, and catalogs like Sears or commercials. In all of these cases, child labor laws technically applied, and agents, producers, and networks played middlemen. But with the advent of YouTube in 2005, a new era began. Suddenly, parents could bypass Hollywood and go direct to audience. Some of those key moments included EvanTube HD, which launched in 2011, one of the earliest and most successful kid-run toy review channels. In 2014, Ryan's Toy Review, now Ryan's World. That has led to an empire worth tens of millions. And this era marked the birth of kidfluencing, children becoming influencers through content primarily produced by their parents, often centered on toys, challenges, and family life. And then, of course, in 2016, the Instagram and TikTok generation. Parents began building personal brands around their kids. Daily routines, fashion, mommy and me, content, and lifestyle vlogs. So kids like Nastya and the McClure twins and Everly Rose amassed millions of followers. Brands started offering huge sponsorship deals for children with massive reach, sometimes even before the kids could speak in full sentences. By the late 2010s, kidfluencing was no longer a niche. It was a multi-billion-dollar industry, and families began hiring full-time teams, securing sponsorships, launching merch lines, and even signing with talent agencies. But the always present question is, are these kids protected under labor laws? Are these parents saving their earnings? And what happens when a child no longer wants to perform? So Madison and Kyler Fisher, for example, the creators behind the massively popular family YouTube channel, The Fish Fam. Kyle is an actor and a musician from Utah who had appeared in low-budget films before turning to YouTube. His wife, Madison, was an actress and a singer, and they began documenting the family life after the birth of their twin daughters. They're both members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and their family-friendly content often featured big milestones, faith, and emotional moments appealing to a wide audience, especially young parents. Now, their YouTube launched in 2016. It quickly gained traction thanks to the twin daughters, Tatum and Oakley, and they became mini celebrities before they were even 5 years old. Now, the channel grew into a full-fledged business with millions of followers across YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And they earn income from YouTube ad revenue, brand partnerships with major toy, clothing, and wellness companies, affiliate links, and merch. So they really represent a shift from lifestyle blogging to full-scale family entertainment empires. Then you have the McClure family who have the twin daughters. They had a viral video where twins Ava and Alexis discussed who's prettier. And again, that went massively viral. So the girls' charm, humor, and close bond captivated millions. After that initial viral moment, they pivoted into content creation, launching YouTube channels, social media accounts, and a family brand. And now their popularity has turned into a full-fledged business with YouTube ad revenue, sponsored posts and brand deals, book deals, and public speaking gigs. Now, this family also is very open in the series about the struggle of pivoting and what happens when your old tweets go viral and how to talk to your kids, and also the pressure of keeping up with trends, particularly trends where you're pranking. And in one episode, you see them prank the kids about the state of their marriage, and I'm telling you, your eyes are going to fall out of your head. Then you have Nastya, who is the stage name and global brand built around a little girl named Anastasia. She's one of the most successful and highest paid child YouTubers in the entire world. She was originally diagnosed with cerebral palsy as a toddler, and her parents began filming her for family archives, partly as a way to document her progress. But what started as casual home videos quickly transformed into a media empire. And I mean, it looks like it's a full-fledged business. It is fascinating to see the amount of work that goes into this little girl's channel. She's got several channels in several languages: English, Spanish, German, Arabic, with billions of views. She's one of the top earning YouTubers globally. Forbes reported that she earned over $18 million in 2019 alone, and her family has since expanded the brand. The revenue sources include YouTube, sponsored content, licensing deals, merchandising, NFTs, and digital ventures. And then you get a window into Ethan Rodriguez. He's a young content creator and influencer who gained attention through family vlogs and his own social media presence. He represents a newer wave of kid influencers, often more independent or with parents less tightly controlling the brand compared to the tightly managed families. And I think his story is used in the series to highlight the challenges of balancing childhood and content creation. Now, what you should know is this is not just a Western phenomenon, how a toddler with a camera and a team can reach more people than many television networks. Also, unlike traditional child actors, most kidfluencers aren't protected by that Coogan law, which safeguards earnings for child performers. Only recently have states like Illinois began drafting legislation to protect child influencers' rights and earnings. And there's always that question of whether their income is being safeguarded. But there are also long-term questions. How will growing up with billions of eyes on these kid influencers affect their development? How can you feel successful as you get older if you were famous and wealthy based on a business built around you as a 3-year-old? Would it feel like you had your peak moment or that you're getting less and less important? And also the long-term damage with having your self-discovery on camera. Childhood and adolescence are naturally chaotic experimental phases, full of trying on identities, testing boundaries, and making mistakes. But what about when every stage is filmed, edited, and monetized? It can cause serious psychological and emotional damage. And then, of course, the lack of privacy. A child who grows up online has no private space to make sense of who they are. That means every haircut, tantrum, awkward phase, and mood swing is broadcast for millions to comment on. The permanence of the internet means those awkward moments can resurface forever long after the child has outgrown them. And what is their sense of identity? And of course, there's the performing instead of developing. And what is it like when your parents are actually your bosses and your children are actually your employees? And when your value is measured in likes, followers, and comments from strangers, do you learn to outsource your sense of self? That's not really development, that's branding. And when the attention fades, the emotional crash must be brutal. So this is a window into that world of kidfluencing. Born to be viral, the real lives of kid influencers debuts on Freeform with a 2-episode premiere Monday, June 23rd. And then the full 6-episode docuseries will be available to stream July 8th on Hulu. This is a provocative series. It is an absolute conversation starter. And I was thrilled to have an interview this week with the series director, Inez Novacic.
This is Nick.
And this is Jack. We're best friends, ex-finance guys, and resident 90s experts.
And every week on our podcast, The Best Idea Yet, we're bringing you the untold stories behind your favorite products.
For instance, can you guess which billion-dollar fashion company went viral thanks to a rhinestone-covered tracksuit?
Or which cartoon turned 4 turtles into a global toy empire by accident? It started as a joke.
Last one. Which cold beverage was so hated by Starbucks, they actually ended up acquiring it?
Spoiler, the Frappuccino. Howard Schultz apparently thought cold coffee was super lame, and then he bought it.
From Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Juicy Couture to the Orange Mocha Frappuccino.
Join us every week to learn how your favorite things got made.
Follow The Best Idea Yet on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
And you can listen early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus. And if this podcast lasts longer than 45 minutes, call your doctor.
Hey, I'm Cassie DePeckle, the host of Wondery's podcast, Against the Odds. In each episode, we share thrilling true stories of survival, putting you in the shoes of the people who live to tell the tale. In our next season, it's August 3rd, 1991. A Greek cruise ship, the Oceanos, sets sail into a brutal storm off South Africa's wild coast. Soon after, disaster strikes. A breach in the hull knocks out power and floods the ship. But instead of helping, the senior officers abandon their posts. With no leadership, the entertainers must step up and lead a desperate evacuation to save hundreds of lives before the ship sinks beneath the sea. Follow Against the Odds on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. Binge the entire season ad-free right now only on Wondery Plus. Start your free trial in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify today.
Inez, it is so nice to meet you. I feel like I've watched so many of these documentaries. I first have to give you a lot of recognition because I feel like this is the one where I feel like it's really telling an accurate story of all the work that goes into all of this. Sure, it talks about the broad questions about privacy and children's protections, but I really feel like I got a window into all of the work that is really put into a lot of these YouTube. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's great to be here. And thank you for saying that. I feel like that was the goal. It was to show the real lives of these kids and these families. And that includes a lot of work. And so I'm glad that it resonated.
It also resonates with me too, because as a podcaster, I really have to pay attention to trends, and I could feel the pressure that they feel about the numbers. So I think if anybody has a job in content creation, this absolutely resonates. So I guess the first question I have for you is, I know this took 5 years. How did the project begin, and how did you get the families to agree to be followed?
Like all great things, I think it was totally on accident that I stumbled upon the existence of families who make a living sharing their family life and their children's lives on social media. And that was in late 2018. At the time, I was working as a producer and director for a CBS series of documentaries around the world. And I was given an opportunity to do a quote unquote light story of my choosing. And just research led me to this topic. And I actually met the Fishers through that process. And they, being one of the first families who are the OG influencer and kid influencer family, really were interesting to me. I felt like as a filmmaker, it's so rare to have a vantage into an unfolding, completely new story that is so layered and nuanced and that concerns all of us. This, to me, is less a story about social media, but more a story about family and family life and how we are families today with this new technology and this new media of social media. And so it was accidental, and I've been in this world ever since. So 6 years now, almost 5 years filming, a long time.
Well, the Fisher family is interesting too, and having interviewed so many guests that have a Mormon faith, that's kind of part of their culture, is the scrapbooking, the following the daily lives and kind of capturing it. Did you feel like that was a different story, the Fisher family versus the other families, because of their Mormon faith?
I think it's less general, perhaps, in saying the Mormon faith. Although I will acknowledge that the phenomena of family influencers comes from and is an outgrowth of mommy bloggers, and this is sort of very prevalent, I think, in Mormon communities, certainly in Salt Lake City, starting in the even before like 2010, early 2010. So there is a link, and there is certainly a link to the faith. I think for the Fisher family in particular, their genesis of social media stems, I think, more from their aspirations for Hollywood and acting. Madison and Kyler. Madison in particular was a sort of a child actor and model. And so I think for them, maybe that link is stronger. Although certainly in general, there is a connection between the Mormon faith and just the amount of families in this space and children influencers in this space who happen to be Mormon. I don't think there's any conclusive data, but I've certainly anecdotally found that disproportionate amounts of family and children influencers happen to also be of the Mormon faith.
And I'm just thinking about all the projects that I've heard about in the influencer space. So to get so many of these families to agree to be filmed, what do you think about this project made them feel like this was a project that they would feel like their story was told in the most accurate way? I can't even imagine how many companies have come to them or platforms have come to them over the years.
You know, I would like to say they really just trusted me and believed in the mission. But I do think it's the idea of having real time to tell their story in a nuanced way. So I wasn't coming to them and saying, can I interview you for one day? And then that will be the definitive account. Or can I deconstruct one event and put you as a talking head? I really wanted to center the experiences of these families. I wanted them to have agency in telling their story. And I think perhaps in a post-COVID landscape of social media and certain stories emerging that had negative connotations about people who share their lives and families on social media, perhaps that made these families want to sort of tell their own story so that they, as in the case of the Fishers, one of the first families, in the case of the McClures, one of the most famous viral twins online children, they wanted to have a say and to really show what it's actually like, versus people inferring what this life as a family is like from cases that are, you know, frankly, disturbing and extreme, like that we've heard about in media. I think this is a very different perspective because it really centers it on the parents and the kids. You know, I invested a lot of time in ensuring that they had a say and that we interviewed everybody over time, very regularly, even repeating the same themes and questions so that we really can trace its evolution through their eyes as well.
Also, to get an insight into like management and brand deals and income, did you see that there was like an uptick during COVID? Was that a time of high volume for them in terms of brand deals? And has it sort of waned, or do you find that it's actually getting bigger?
It's interesting you ask that question, and it's sort of the backdrop of the series. We trace over 5 years how these families navigate the world of social media, and we also contextualize for audiences how the world itself has evolved. And there's definitely been changes since the COVID-19 pandemic. I think 2020, absolutely, there was an increase in volume of brands and media opportunities for these creators because we were all stuck at home and everything was so uncertain. And there was a lot of sort of, I think, unknown and uncertainty in where everything would go. So yes, there was an uptick in volume, but there actually wasn't an uptick in terms of income or revenue for these creators. It brought more people into the fold and created a more saturated market, if you will. And so it was actually a time of a lot of loss in terms of revenue and financial stability and security, like with the rest of us, I think, in the world at the time. Since then, it has changed. And I think our series does a good job of taking us through that. And it's why we meet creators like Nastia, who's she is the top children creator in the world. And she is at the top right now for a reason. And it's how she runs, how her family and her mom run her brand and business. It's very different to what they would have done to be successful pre-COVID-19, pre-2020.
Every big moment starts with a big dream. But what happens when that big dream turns out to be a big flop? From Wondery and At Will Media, I'm Misha Brown, and this is The Big Flop. Every week, comedians join me to chronicle the biggest flubs, fails, and blunders of all time, like Quibi.
It's kind of like when you give yourself your own nickname and you try to get other people to do it.
And the 2019 movie adaptation of Cats.
If I'm watching the dancing and I'm noticing the feet aren't touching the ground, there's something wrong with the movie.
Find out what happens when massive hype turns into major fiasco. Enjoy The Big Flop on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to The Big Flop early and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Get started with your free trial at Wondery.com/plus.
You know those creepy stories that give you goosebumps? The ones that make you really question what's real? Well, what if I told you that some of the strangest, darkest, and most mysterious stories are not found in haunted houses or abandoned forests, but instead in hospital rooms and doctors' offices? Hi, I'm Mr. Ballin, the host of Mr. Ballin's Medical Mysteries, and each week on my podcast, you can expect to hear stories about bizarre illnesses no one can explain, miraculous recoveries that shouldn't have happened, and cases so baffling they stumped even the best doctors. So if you crave totally true and thoroughly twisted horror stories and mysteries, Mr. Ballin's Medical Mysteries should be your new go-to weekly show. Listen to Mr. Ballin's Medical Mysteries on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Also quite jarring to see the difference between her business and the way her family operates and the team behind it versus the McClures, who in some ways you feel like even though they had been in the game for quite some time, they're still almost working on the fly. They're trying to catch up with trends, where Nastia's family feels like this well-oiled machine.
I think they operate every one of the families that we feature, and I think it's true generally. Every family has their own thing that they're focused on, and they adjust according to their family cadence and lifestyle to the trends and the shifts in the larger market. And so I think the reason we had in the series this parallel of the evolution of social media and the business and the brands, if you will, is because that is such an important part of the story that the families themselves do not have control over. Right. So we really wanted to highlight how these parents and these kids fit into this larger ecosystem and a business for which there is persistent growing demand. In episode 2 with the McClures, we look at the fact of followers. Who are followers? Why do they follow? I think these questions often get lost in a lot of the coverage that we see of these families and kids. And we tend to, narrowly fixate on the parents and look at their motivation. And I think there is such a huge part played by the business of all of this that absolutely impacts how the families react.
In some ways, did it feel like you were filming 4 different startups?
I wouldn't say that. I like I said at the beginning, I think this is really about family. And I think whatever opinion people might have about sharing your children online, this is such an important topic in our culture and society today. It's only going to get more important if we look to the future and different technologies that are in this space now. I really, really wanted to center it on the people who were the trailblazers and who are defining kind of how families respond to these big trends, how they experience it, because I think it's so much more than just business or startups. It really is family and childhood. And, whatever you might think about these families, the families I think we chose in our series, they love their children and they really believe they're doing the best thing for them. And so they have in this show an opportunity to show the world what that means and what that looks like, and all of the forces, business, privacy, all of the nuance and issues that come with it.
It does seem at times, especially towards the end of the series, that the Fisher family and the McClure family are experiencing fatigue. What did you feel like as the person who was witnessing this for 5 years? Because we have the benefit of kind of seeing this all this process sped up, but you were there. Does it feel like, or did it feel like there was a lot of fatigue and a concern about constant pivoting?
I think the way we filmed was such that, and it was very important to me that we really were kind of held to this very seriously because we're dealing with families and children. We had a very minimal footprint. It was usually me and one other person.
Okay.
and spending time. And it was not like we went and stayed with them for days and weeks on end. So we tried to really
dipping in and out.
Dipping in and very fly on the wall. And obviously that for our side had its challenges. And, you always feel like, oh, what if I miss something? But we were very consistent. And so I did really see them evolve over time. And yes, absolutely. I mean, this is, Justin McClure says that we treat this like a business, and they have to, because burnout is real. Mm-hmm. And they're the families themselves discuss sort of these important topics that are in the zeitgeist now, like regulation. And as people, when they watch, will see, they give their opinion on what would be helpful to them as the creators working in this space, what kind of rules and regulations, and they want more structure because it is very difficult to keep going.
So now that this process is over and kind of being witness to it, do you have any opinions of where this is going? Do you think that there will be even more families that are interested? Because watching it, I kept thinking, there are people that are going to watch this and think, oh, heck no, this is way too much work. But there might be a population of people who think, my kid is such a star. I mean, when I was growing up, everyone thought their kid should be a model. And now everyone thinks that their child should have their own television show and be like a YouTube star. So do you think that after witnessing this and then putting this project out, do you think that it's just going to get bigger and bigger?
I think that 5 years of filming, and we are just at the beginning of the story. This is the first generation of children who have been raised with their lives shared online to, sometimes millions of people. And they're all still under the age of 13. Mm-hmm. So we're really just at the cusp of what could be. I honestly, and it's exciting as a filmmaker, really, to still not know what the impact of all of this is on our culture and society. And I do think that perhaps people don't yet quite realize how many kids and families do this. Maybe it's not primary income. Maybe they don't have the multi-million follower base. Maybe they're not making as much money, but hundreds of thousands of families around the US and around the world are engaging in sharing their lives in some way or another. And I would wager that most of us are engaging in following or observing in some way. So I absolutely think we are just at the beginning of what this story means, and what I have no idea what it's going to look like in the next 5 years. And that's kind of interesting, I think.
Well, certainly a most thought-provoking series. Again, I thought you did a great job. Born to be Viral, The Real Life of Kidfluencers. Tell everybody where they can find you.
So I just started an Instagram account. I'm learning how to use Instagram. My handle is at Inessa Nova, INESSANOVVA.
You were with influencers for 5 years and you just started Instagram.
I'm not. I definitely would not have been a kid influencer.
Well, I'm so grateful for your time.
Thank you so much, Kate. It was great to be here.
I want to thank my fantastic guest, Inez, and remind you to click subscribe. Please leave a 5-star review. Join the Facebook group Reality Life with Kate Casey. You can get my What to Watch list by going to katecasey.substack.com. I've got bonus episodes on Apple Podcast and Patreon. I did one this week about the history of the revolution in Iran. And you can also follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at @KCCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey, and Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at Kate Casey. Check back tomorrow for an all-new episode.
Running a business is hard work. Building your website shouldn't be. With Wix, you can express your ideas, give direction, then leave the heavy lifting to AI. From site creation to branded content and images. Have fun with the details. Customize what you want the way you want. And manage your whole business from a centralized dashboard with expert AI tools. Build, scale, and enjoy the incredible results. You can do it all yourself on Wix.